Thank you, Doreen, for that one. And right now, I'm joined by the Member of Parliament of Seme Constituency, that is Dr. James Nyikal. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for coming. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
I'm glad that we are meeting once again this year, where we stopped last year. How is Seme Constituency doing?
Well, Seme Constituency is fine. Like all other parts of the country.
Yes.
We are concerned about the corona. But we don't have specific figures for Seme. We have for Kisumu County.
Yes.
I think Seme will be there. And right now, we are all concerned about the elections that are coming and encouraging our people to come out and register as voters.
Yes.
So otherwise, Seme is relatively fine.
Absolutely. And I think it's also quite imperative to mention that you talked about voter registration, which IEBC said that is going to start on the 17th of this month.
Yes.
The next phase of voter registration. So last year, they did not meet their target.
Yes.
And, you know, as per the law, the voter registration should be something continuous. Do you think they're going to meet their target this time around? Because whatever happened last year, perhaps most people were disillusioned because of the pandemic or otherwise. What is your focus?
My focus is they may get near it, but I'm doubtful as to whether they'll meet it. And my reason is these short bursts are really not good because people do adjust. When you say you are now going to do voter registration, then we are going to get the polling stations or the stations where they're going to register. Then you have to, first of all, identify them. You have to advertise them.
Yes.
You have to mobilize people to know where they are. And again, what they've been doing, like what was done in the past, is that actually these are moving stations. So they are here today, they are there tomorrow, they are there tomorrow. And one month is a short time to actually get people to know where things are happening. People don't react immediately. People know, okay, it is in this place. I go today, maybe I'll go tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow they're in another place.
Yes.
So I think in future what we need to do is take 3-4 months if we want to do this registration that we want to supplement the normal daily registration so that people now get to know the stations are fixed and they are there for say 1 month. Even if you want to move them, you can say we move them in maybe in a week. They stay there for a week or 2 weeks, then they move like that. Because people get confused. When we were involved the other time, you tell people they'll be here today, they'll be here the 3 days later, they'll be in this place and this place and this place. And sometimes by the time they get there, the people get there, they have moved. Because people say, they are there, so I'll go tomorrow.
So it's about having specific polling stations.
It is the logistics of doing it that I think is going to be a problem.
IEBC learned from the last phase of voter registration because the Chebukati-led team, you know, they were talking about funding, which they said that was cut by a certain margin. Something different that might happen this time around?
I'm not aware if the funding has been increased, but I also know that funding is a problem because we had to mobilize actually to support IBC and also to support national registration ID cards. There should also be some harmony between getting the ID cards and getting a voter registration. So that by the time you go to the voter registration, most of the people have the ID cards. But what we realized, we were trying to get people to get the ID cards, then try to get them back, and then get a voter registration. There is some need for logistics, and I think they should be better funded. And the issue of getting the usual registration, the one you are saying that is going on all the time, just at the sub-county headquarters. It is far for some people, and people have to travel with borders or even matatus, and people find it expensive to spend say 300 shillings to go and register as voters. So I think what we should do is actually distribute them a little more even during this normal voter registration, so that people find it near home and they can register.
And I think it's also important to note that today was supposed to be Battle of the Doctors. We're expecting Dr. Boni Halwale, the bullfighter, who is yet to arrive in studio, and we are expecting him anytime from now. Daktari, wherever you are, please, your seat is still waiting for you. All right, so we're still continuing our discussion today. I'm quite interested to know what is happening in Parliament, because when you talk of voter registration, still on that, Parliament was supposed to give, to go on recess very soon. But there are certain timelines. We have got Azimio la Umoja, the political parties, now people are calling the Azimio la Umoja bill, which I don't think, is it so?
It's not an Azimio la Umoja bill.
Yes.
It is a bill amending the Political Parties Act
2021.
And let me tell you the danger of politicizing issues.
Yes.
Like when you have a bill and then you politicize that bill, people then fail to discuss the merits or the demerits of the bill. People then discuss alignment, so that if you say it is Azimio bill, then those who are pro-Azimio will probably support it even without going into the details of the bill. And those who are against Azimio will oppose it.
It loses contextual context.
It loses contextual context.
Yes.
Which is actually what is important for any bill. Bills cannot be made for a short-term purpose.
Yes.
Bills are made for long-term. The things you think will need further into the future.
Right.
Yes.
But
so I don't think we should call it an Azimio bill.
And people are calling it as Azimio bill. Actually,
because you see, that is what happened with the BBI.
Yes.
BBI was quickly politicized. So
is it the reason why it lost its footing?
Well, it lost the process. It didn't lose its footing, because if you read the contents of BBI, if you read the 9 points that started with handshake, everybody will agree that those things are good for Kenya. Nobody says no. But now when you then call it BBI and then change those contents into what actually needs to be done administratively or legally, then now people turn around and politicize it and reject what in principle they thought were good things for the country. So there's great danger politicizing anything, really.
Yes. Is BBI disguised as Azimio la Umoja?
What do you mean disguised? The contents of BBI are the contents. You see, the issue with BBI, even in court, was the process, not the contents. Now, Azimio is calling for unity of the country. Now, remember, unity was a big thing in the BBI. So if we take that now, this is our call. It's our running call. It's unity. Then you can't say it's a name for another name for, because then you are perpetuating what I said is wrong.
Yes.
If you had politicized BBI, then you now say this BBI is just another name for Azimio. Again, you are perpetuating. You are trying to get what I would say unfair advantage that branding BBI did, and you want to extend it to Azimio as well.
Yeah.
It's a bit of being a bit of cheating, in my view.
Yeah. Mheshimiwa, there is the tight timeline that the BBI, the Political Parties Amendment Bill has right now is it has until April to make sure that that bill is passed and the president sent to it to become law. But then now looking at it, this means that any coalition party must exist as a legal entity by April 9th. However, the timeline's headache is made worse by the IEBC requirements that political parties conclude their nominations by April 16th. So how is this going to complicate the process of now having the coalition party named as existing as an entity, and then now we have coalition? Don't you think it's going to give a very squeezed time for politicians to juggle in between that 9th of April to 16th to make their decisions to belong to any political party?
But you know,
the
bill is being discussed.
Yes.
And the contents we know. And therefore, it right now it has passed to the National Assembly.
Yes.
It is probably, in my view, going to pass
to the Senate today for the first reading.
Yes. Yeah. And then it will be assented to. Any politician, any party we're now planning, must plan with consideration that this thing, if it passes, my timeline is this. So prepare for that as well. If it doesn't pass, then go with the relaxed timeline we had before.
Yes.
That's how life is in everything.
Yeah.
Nothing is always clear and in black and white, and it will happen. It is just like the planting season. The forecast will that the rains will come this time.
Then sometimes
it doesn't come.
Yeah.
If you had prepared your seeds, you then plant them when the rains come. So I think people should discuss the content of the bill. I agree that the logistics of its implementation is important, but for parties and politicians, now we know those two possibilities. So you plan with them right now.
Yes. Okay, let's plan and take a break right now. And when you come back, I'm still interested in understanding more on that political parties, because you in Parliament, and Parliament voted the Pro-Political Parties Act. You voted for it, and it sailed. Now it's going for the first reading in Senate today. So from the Parliament side, that focus, what do we need to understand that Mwananchi needs to understand, and they need to demystify as they go to the Senate today? So let's take a break and we'll come back. Meanwhile, we are still waiting for Boni Khalwale, the bullfighter. Please hurry up, all right? We'll be right back. Very good, and welcome back. We are still here with a Member of Parliament of Seme Constituency, that is Dr. James Nyikal. And my focus is still on that bill that is headed to the Senate today for the first reading. Mheshimiwa, where we left, Parliament did its part. You voted overwhelmingly the Pro-Political Parties Act, but then now it's heading to the Senate. What should you expect in the Senate today?
If it is first reading,
yes,
it will actually just be read and say a bill for such and such purposes.
Yeah.
And for the first reading, that is it. Then they'll go for the second reading, which I think they'll put pretty soon. If they did the first reading in the morning, I think they should be able to go for the second reading in the afternoon. They can seek leave to shorten that period. And if that is granted, then they can go for the second reading, and then they can go for the third reading.
Yes.
Now what happens is that during the first reading, as I said, it will just be mentioned, and this is what we have a bill, this is what this will lead. It has come from the National Assembly, and now it is before us. Then they will actually discuss in general terms the merits and demerits of the bill, and expound on why those who oppose certain clauses oppose those clauses. Those who oppose the bill in general oppose the bill in general.
Yes.
So basically, you are going into a detailed discussion of the bill, its contents, what it means, what problems it will solve, and what restrictions it will create, and so on. So that's really when you get to know the general purpose and the intent and the implications of its implementation. And if then they pass it, if then the Senate passes it, then it will go for the third reading. Now the third reading is actually not even the third reading, is the committee of the whole house.
Yes.
So they go into the committee of the whole house. Then now you go into detail by detail, line by line, and some clauses may be amended, and those who seek amendments to those clauses will have to bring those amendments earlier.
Right.
So those amendments will be discussed. And there you don't go for a very detailed discussion, because you have had detailed discussion. You say, this is my amendment, the import of my amendment is this. And then the members are asked whether they support that amendment or not.
Yes.
And if they go by the nays and the ayes have it, that if there is if, say, the speaker says it's the nays who have it, or the ayes, whichever, the other side, if they feel they are not satisfied, will call for a division. calling for a division, you actually go for a count, almost a head count. But these days, it is done electronically from your seat. There is the electronic equipment that you will press physically, and it shows on the board. So if that takes place, and that is tedious, and if they call for division at every point, then that takes a bit of time. That's what happened in the National Assembly. And initially in the National Assembly, we were actually to do it physically because the gadgets had been disabled because of COVID to avoid. But later on, they were corrected, and we moved very fast. Now, if then they go through that and it is passed, but that's the way it becomes fairly acrimonious.
It was quite chaotic in Parliament. Perhaps with all the intentions perhaps to derail the process, as would be alleged. I'm wondering whether that would replicate itself in the Senate.
You can't tell, but emotions will probably run high the same way. Let me repeat these words. I wouldn't be surprised if it I wouldn't be surprised. But again, there's been a lot of public outcry against what we saw, because what was really happening were the efforts by the opponents of the bill to literally just block it, so that we do, first of all, you do what in parliamentary language is called filibustering. You talk on and on and on and on with the sole purpose of buying time and getting time to run over before you actually finish. And then you get to a point where you go beyond that, people start shouting, and when people shouting, the people call each other names, and when people lose their cool, and you see the push and shove, and I would not like it to go that way, because I didn't even like that in Parliament. It happens, but it shouldn't happen. But if that if whatever happens, if it is passed, if they make changes, then it will come back to the National Assembly. Now, if the National Assembly agrees with those changes, then it goes to the president for assent. If they don't make any changes, it goes straight to the president for assent. That if they make changes, it comes back. If you agree, it goes to the president for National Assembly. If we don't agree with the changes they have made, then they'll call for mediation, where you get a number of people from Senate, a number of people from the National Assembly, and they discuss the areas of disagreement.
Which we are most likely not to get there. Mediation process.
If we get there, it will then heighten the problem you are worried about, the problem of time limits. Because it will take time. The time of assent from which you start counting the timelines will go further. And so we hope that it doesn't go to mediation. That would be the best.
When you talk of time, Mheshimiwa, somebody would ask himself that, all of this process is done under special sittings. Why the rush? Why was this bill not introduced in Parliament before the recess?
Bills are prepared. A bill can be a member's bill, a private member's bill. A bill can be a bill that is brought into the floor by the majority leader. That means it's from the government. And the bill is prepared, and when it is ready, it comes to the House. So you can't ask, why was the bill not prepared? Because the need for the bill arises as things are developing. And if you see that there's need, you may find that a bill like this, people have been even thinking about it for even years. So there are bills that people think about for years. It goes for pre-publication scrutiny and so on. So it's a process. To ask why it came at this time, I can only say that is when it was ready to come. That's
a smart way to bottle it. When it was ready to come. Perhaps there is something, or maybe there's some things, the way you're putting it, it was ready to come because a bill takes process for it to be introduced in Parliament for first reading. But then now...
But look we have also passed other bills in special sittings. I think we passed the NHF bill also in special sittings. That's why I'm telling you, you must look, when we are doing these discussions, you must look at the motivation of politics as far as the discussions are concerned, how politics is motivating the discussion. You haven't had a lot of outcry on why the NHIF bill was done in a special sitting. Yeah. But it was done.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you think a bill needs to be moved fast, then you can have special sittings.
Yeah. You know, those are just file footage from Parliament. It was chaotic. Punches were throwing all over. MP member of Parliament John Mbadi was also suspended for 5 sittings. It was all chaotic in Parliament. But anyway,
Gedi was later also suspended for suspended for a day, and Ndindi Nyoro was also suspended. Yeah.
So it's a crazy one. But then, why would it get to that particular point? Perhaps you might not be the right person to speak on behalf of the Tanga wing, people who are opposed to the bill. But why would they oppose this bill?
You see, I think the first reason, in my view, maybe I may be, as you said, I cannot talk for them. But the first thing, if a bill has been politicized, and as you say, it is seen as a bill coming from this side of the political divide, not many of us politicians will have the courage to now take and read the bill and say, I think this bill has merits or demerits here. So although it has come from a political side, I'm opposing it, or it whether it has come from the other side, I'm supporting it. So first of all, when you take it like that, and that's the perception, you can immediately understand that when it has been perceived as an Azimio bill, then they have to oppose it.
It's automatic.
Two, there are certain areas that I can say what they voiced in Parliament, because those ones we had. One of the reasons they brought was that this bill is going to give the registrar of political parties so much powers. They were calling it the imperial registrar of political parties. But on our side, the way I see it, or on my side, the way I saw it, parties there has been a lot of indiscipline in parties, particularly movement of members from one party to the other, or expounding positions that are not in line with their party, and forming coalitions without really guidelines on how it is done. So it's necessary that in order to bring some discipline into the parties, somebody has to be a regulator. And therefore, what this bill is doing is actually making the register of political parties a regulator, to give clear guidelines on how a party is registered, what you need to put in place, what you need to bring, what are your ideologies, what are your programs, what are your slogans, and what do you need to bring, the membership, and so on. And the other one was the movement of members. When a member is deemed, we have this situation where people are in one party and actually campaigning or actually expounding ideology of other parties, while sometimes even holding positions within the house.
Actually, it's even happening right now.
So that is indiscipline that needs to be brought into place, and you can't leave it to the parties to do that themselves. There has to be a structure that brings that into place, and therefore I think that is necessary, and that is the power that was being given to the registrar of political parties. But there was even, in my view, I saw some positive element. Before all that had happened, it was decided, the current act just said, you are deemed to have resigned from your political party if you expose expound the ideologies of that. If all those, but listen, it's not happening because there were no sanctions or no process. Let me say no process. But there was also something. It didn't give a member. There was no provision for a member to protect themselves. What has happened in this bill? If you are deemed to have left your party And who decides you are deemed? One, it is the party. Do we just leave it to the party that has an interest in removing you for other reasons? Now the registrar of the political parties has to look at the reasons why you are deeming somebody
and
to have left.
Last say.
And then, they can bring it back to you and say, we do not agree, and therefore will not remove your name from the register of political of your party, because now the register of names of a political party have also to be with the registrar, which I think is a good thing. So that then gives, and you are also given the opportunity to be heard and to use your internal processes. So if these internal processes have not been adhered to, then the registrar has the power to say, no, we can't remove that person's name because you, as a party, have not gone through your own internal processes. You have not given him or her opportunity to be heard. I think that was pretty good. The other one they brought out quite concerned about is the issue that of a coalition party. So they were saying there's no such thing as a coalition party, but we know there should be no such thing as a coalition party. People had coalitions, but there was no legal structure in the political act.
This bill is meant to
bill is aligning that so that this is what a coalition party is, and the requirement for registering a coalition party cannot be the same as requirement for registering a party. Because a coalition party is a party that's made of coalitions, parties that are already existing. So that process has to be clearly defined. And it's been made simpler in this, that you just have a coalition agreement. And once you deposit the coalition agreement with the registrar, that's okay. They also had a problem with that. What the bill had proposed was actually 6 months. They wanted 3 months, again looking at the timeline. But again, that was because we are seeing it in the context of the coming elections. We came to a compromise, and eventually it came to four months. So that's another reason they were very worried about. The other reason that they put forward was that this thing is unconstitutional, particularly the definition of a political party. As it was before, in the current act, the definition of a political party was referred in the Constitution, Article 260 of the Constitution, which said it is as in the Constitution, Article 260. You go to Article 260, and then it refers you to Article 91 and 92. And what 91 says, it gives you the characteristics of a political party. It should be this, the membership, and so on and so on. It does not define the party. Then you go to 92. 92 actually says that Parliament can pass a law to implement this. So you didn't get a clear definition. What this bill did was to now get a definition of a political party as an organization of people, the same ideology, the same program, that seek to change policy or to get people nominated for the. So it's clearer. That was argued, and I think that's where they kept saying this thing will go to court. I'm not a lawyer, but having read it, I don't see anything unconstitutional.
I'll come into that, because when they're talking about going to court, perhaps it creates that perception of a fear. Why they're too much opposed to this bill passing to its ultimate conclusion. But then now, when you talk of the way it's going to be structured and having party discipline, are we trying to borrow what happened in the NAC government in 2002, the Rainbow Coalition? Because the Rainbow Coalition was more or less this kind of a structure that is being introduced in Parliament right now.
How do you make laws, and how do laws come about? Laws come about to correct some evils or some mischief you see in the society, or laws come about to put legally what have been found to work probably administratively, but have no legal basis. I can't say, I haven't studied in details the structure of NAC was, but if the structure of NAC was such that it looks like what we are proposing now, then we must say that they got they got it right, and therefore there's nothing wrong by now getting that and embellishing it in the law.
Yes.
Yeah. There are many things that are done administratively, they are found to work, but then they are not legal, so you can't enforce them. People do them at their own will. But if you find it's a good thing to do, then you can bring it into the law, so that then it can be guided by the law and sanctions put in place and processes put in place. I won't fault it just because of that. But as I've said, if people are opposed to something, they always scrutinize and find what to say they don't like. But the same things they say they don't like are the same things you may like. If people want a free-for-all, where you walk from one party and go and talk there, you come to another party,
everybody
to go and talk there, it's chaotic.
Yes.
If I am told I'm going to be removed from a party because I'm deemed to have acted against my party, I need a process. And if I'm left only with my party and the internal structures of my party, and it is the same party that has actually decided I must go, what is wrong with having somebody as an arbiter that doesn't actually force the party, but just says, your own processes.
Yes.
Say 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you subject this member of yours to these processes properly before you ask for his expulsion?
But Mheshimiwa, we've seen so many, politicians around. They still support an ideology of a political party which sponsored them to parliament. Even currently, we have got so many. For example, Aisha Juma, member of parliament of ODM.
She's sitting in the commission thanks to the Public Service Commission.
Yes.
Thanks to ODM. Yeah.
That is the party discipline that you're trying, Parliament, this bill is trying to achieve.
To bring those the issues into law.
Yes. I'm quite interested to know why the Tanga team are opposed to the timeline given. If it's going to bring about party discipline and making sure that when people go to an election, it's a clean process, that even political parties who are members of a coalition are also enjoying all the rights and benefits of a coalition party.
As I said, I don't want to talk for the Tanga group.
Yes.
I can only say what they said. What they said in Parliament. But what I really got from them, they think the time limit was too short. It was too long. Not too short, too long. They wanted it shortened. In my interpretation of what they said would be that they are probably not ready.
Yes.
Right now they are going as ODA, and we don't know whether they're going to go into a coalition. Perhaps, and we can see they are wooing other people. So it means they're preparing to get into a coalition, and they are not ready. So they don't want a long timeline that will block them out.
Yes.
That is what I can see. Yeah. But I think it would not be right to really block a whole law because you yourself are not ready. And you get the impression that probably they don't like the whole concept of coalition. But the way we see this country politically now, I don't see a single party that will come out and go to the elections and win an election as a single party. These coalitions are going to be with us. All over the world, there are coalitions. So it is time we put into law provisions. We put into provisions into law that guide how you make a coalition.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This aspect. What is your view on pre-election pact or post-election pact?
My view. This is a personal view. I think pre-election pact gives you the idea to put together. Pre-election pact assumes that you have you share ideologies, you share the process that are coming, and you want to go it together. And then if you have a proper agreement that is now deposited with the registrar, then it now you are telling people in advance how you are going to relate and behave from now on. Before you even would go for the election, and after the election, whether you win or lose, that should be part of the pre-election arrangement. You have things like political party funds. How are they shared? Which is a
big problem, actually.
How are they shared?
Yes.
Again, this bill has brought a lot more details into how it is shared, and actually has given parties a better opportunity of getting part of the political party's fund. You realize that has been a problem before.
Yes.
Now, post election coalitions, in my view, it is after the, and I say it's in my view, it's after the election, and people realize that nobody has got a clear majority. You may have a majority, but when you look at your numbers in parliament, it's such that you will not be able to operate. There may be situations where you want something that needs a large majority, like 2/3 majority, and you know from the onset you will not be able to do it. And you also know that with the acrimony of political party competitions, if you have a parliament which sometimes is described as a hung parliament, you will not move. So you say, okay, none of us can form a stable government, so let some of us sit together and form a government. I think it is a saving grace, so to speak, so that you get things going. And they do work, but they seem to be relatively unstable where we see them, because you see people are already have a coalition. First of all, it takes a long time after the election to constitute a government. And we know cases where it has actually failed, in countries where it has failed, so that nobody can actually form a government. Or a government is formed, is so weak that very soon it falls. So again, my personal view I think it's good to have a pre-election coalition.
Yes. All right, a pre-election, and that is what the Deputy President actually is now fronting, because according to him, you must come on the table, tell us what you have, and if you're going to be a member of the coalition or a member of the party, show us who you are right now before we get on an election. And you said...
But that is what this bill is doing.
That's what the bill is doing. Then why would they oppose it?
Ask them. Although Bonnie, my colleague, is not here, I wish he was, but I think you will have another opportunity to call somebody else.
I will still call him. Bullfighter. What happened?
Or another member who is in parliament, and particularly if you get people who actually expose certain positions, and you can get those clips, and then you can now discuss those positions with them in probably a more congenial environment than we do in parliament.
Mheshimiwa, in ODM, to be specific right now, the process of nomination is always, it's always a crazy one, so to speak. And most politicians, including yourself, the moment you get the certificate, then you are as good as voted into office. But then now, which one do you support? Do you go for the nomination, the consensus? There's a consensus process, and now there is that the nomination process. You have got two processes, the consensus and handpicking. So which one do you support?
No, you see, there is consensus, there is direct, and
nomination,
and there is even indirect. If this bill passes, then it is also talking about the nomination process. Actually, this bill has also gone into fair amount of details regarding the nomination process. So if this bill passes, then we'll have the consensus, you will have the direct, and you'll have the indirect. And each one has its own merits. Yes. Consensus is probably very difficult to get people to agree, but it can be achieved, particularly in an area where there's not so much acrimony. But that if by this law, direct is not what people think it is. By this, direct would means that you get nominated by party members. That is what is in this bill. Indirect is where you can be nominated by delegates that are picked by the party. So I don't think people have, maybe they have understood the meaning of direct in this bill and the meaning of direct as we have known it before. Now, if you you are also implying the direct that we knew before, where the party would say, on this seat we are nominating so and so. But look at it. A party is an organ. It's a structured organ. It's sometimes seeking to get power, but many times seeking to get power.
Exactly.
Now, at every constituency, they would want to win that constituency.
So they
know their members of the constituency, and then they can say, here, our best bet would be so and so. Exactly. If there is discipline within the party, I don't see why the party should be denied that. In some countries, actually, people don't vote for candidates. They vote for the party. Then the party assigns candidates. Yeah, so that happens in some countries.
But that is not possible in Kenya.
Well, until we try it, we can't say it's not possible. But the other way, I'm saying, why would we have a direct nomination the way we knew it before this bill comes into place? Now, again, let's say there is a problem, logistical problem. There is probably chaos during it, and there is a limited time for the party now to go and do renomination with the way people would want it before they present their candidate. It would be unfair to expect a party to say, okay, we have now failed in our process to nominate that constituency. We are not shielding a candidate, and therefore we just giving it like that to the other party. The party should have the authority and the ability to say, in this situation, because of this logistics, we are picking a candidate. It may be a political process, as I've said, but what about if it is actually a physical logistics process? There are floods or something like that, or there is insecurity in the security, so the process of security cannot take place. You really must provide a party with the legal provision to then get a candidate within their party. And no party will logically put a candidate that is likely to lose, because then they lose.
They need strength.
So this thing that if we put that candidate is not popular, but time has also proved that if you do that, you lose that seat. And parties are very aware that if you give direct nomination to a candidate that is not popular, you are likely to lose that seat. So I don't see why there should be so much hype about it. And parties can do their own poll. They can do opinion polls on their own. Parties have structures to really know in this constituency who is actually very popular. So when they are faced with that situation where they can't do nomination and they are picking, I think they should use that so that they don't lose, because otherwise they lose. Yes. Okay.
Mheshimiwa, I'm told that you're running out of time, but then now I need to ask you this one. Your colleague, Senator Nyikal, is battling some, police case right now because of the sentiments he made over the weekend. We all agree that it all started like this in 2007, and even years back before then. We are heading to an election period, and it's going to be quite intense as we move forward. And I think this is the right time, as an elder, as a member of parliament, and a person with experience in the area of peace building, what should you tell your colleagues out there and anybody else seeking political seats?
Please, let's stop these hate speeches. My colleague, the senator, is unfortunate. Now they are saying he's apologized. Now they are saying he didn't mean what people think he meant. But it's your duty to communicate what you mean. Exactly. You don't leave it to other people. So when he said the word madoadoa, those words were used in 2007.
And actually it appears in the ICC.
Let me tell you, I moved around this country in 2007 December, 2008 January, and so what was happening? I went to Naivasha after the events where people were burnt in the house. I actually saw the bodies. I actually released the bodies, the director of medical services. I went to Mao Summit and so on the way to Eldoret. I saw how people were living in tents. The country was so divided. So many people died. I saw bodies that were so mutilated. that you couldn't even figure out the sex of the person. Now, why do we want to do that every time we have elections? The people die. So words like Madoadoa, if you said it in that area and look at Eldoret area, Washington Gishu is a settlement area. The colonialists took it for themselves, but after they left, many people moved in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it is really, I would use the word cosmopolitan. Many people live there. Who is Madoadoa? We don't want the Kiambaa issue again. The country was so divided. I moved around the director of medical services. In every part there were 2 IDP camps. In Kikuyu police station, the IDP camps were purely people from Western Kenya, Luyas and Luos. Tigoni was the same. And you went to Limuru, I think it's the children's home.
Yes.
It was people from Western Kenya. You went to Naivasha, near the lake, it was people from Western Kenya only. And even medical staff, they didn't even want to see if they're from another ethnic group.
Exactly, right.
Yes.
Right.
And near the road were the camps from people from Central who had been displaced from the Rift Valley. You went to, that was in Naivasha, you went to Nakuru. In the stadium was people from Western Kenya, many Luyas and a few Kitsis.
Yeah.
In the agriculture, in the showground, it's mainly people from Central who really had nowhere to go. At least people from Western could go and be integrated. The people from Central, I don't want to see that again.
You don't want to see
country.
that. You don't want to see that.
People suffered.
Even as journalists,
I went to Kisumu and I saw people living in a church that they had come from various parts, living in a church. There was even a story that a woman went there with her husband's head in a carton. That's all they could do. You've heard that story?
Yes.
Now, in Kisumu, there were few people from Central, but they were living at the police station in very conditions you didn't want. Do we want that every time we have an election? I'm a politician. We all politicians know what you utter to your followers, even what you imply to your followers may be implemented. You just say, I hate this guy. I don't know what I would do to get rid of this guy. You may mean politically, but your followers may now think, now the boss has said. So we have to really guard our tongues in terms of things that can provoke violence. I'm really sorry for him. If he didn't mean it, he has to come out more clearly and say what he meant. But even then, I think the state has the right to show people that we cannot tolerate this.
All right. Yeah, and he'll be appearing before magistrate today in Nakuru to get the direction as far as that court, that case is concerned. Mheshimiwa, we have to end it there. But I'm interested again in asking you, Kisumu exported some product after 13 years, direct from Kisumu International Airport to the European countries. That's a plus to the Kisumu County.
Good news.
Yes.
To me also.
Parliament from Kisumu
Good news to me also.
Yes.
When that airport was being opened by President Kibaki, former President Kibaki, he made a statement. He actually made it twice, at the airport and at State House in the evening. Now you have opened the airport. What will it do for you? Itakufanyia nini? Utaitumia namna gani? Itakuletea faida gani? What will you export to give you money? If we come to that, then we have moved a great step forward.
Exactly.
It is an international airport. We have fish, although now the fish is dwindling on the Gulf. But we should probably move into fish farming in the area and export the fish.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have possibility of doing flowers there. We haven't done it. But it can be done. But even nearby some nearby Rift Valley places can actually export from Kisumu instead of exporting from Nairobi. And remember, Kisumu is the geographical center of East Africa. And remember its position before independence. So we should encourage that. Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, Sudan. If all these people can actually export from Kisumu, so it would be a great thing if
we have to leave it at that point. I'm afraid that we are running out of time, but thank you so much. We've been talking to Dr. James Nyikal, and remember, we were also expecting Dr. Boni Khalwale, former senator of Kakamega, who has not appeared on the show. Daktari, you owe me an apology as well.